The decisions made at Thursday's gathering will close the case files on a range of outstanding integrity matters, including the salary cap investigation into Cronulla, the Dylan Napa sex tapes, the futures of West's Tigers CEO Justin Pascoe and former Cronulla coach Shane Flanagan, and whether a handful of players on domestic violence charges will be forced to stand down until their court cases are finalised. But by far the most complex and polarising issue surrounds the Dylan matter. The St George Illawarra forward has pleaded not guilty to a charge of aggravated sexual assault, and the Dragons are quietly standing by Dylan while the criminal proceedings play out. A change towards the stand-down policy could impact Dylan in that, under the existing guidelines, the NRL's chief executive and chief operating officers have the discretion to sideline players who have pleaded not guilty to charges. However, the Herald understands that this discretionary power could be scrapped altogether as part of the new policy shake-up, although perhaps not before it is used in the Dylan case. The public debate has been fierce, and already there are suggestions some of the commentary has crossed the line. There is already the threat of legal action after Dylan's lawyers issued one major media outlet a concerns notice following some of its coverage. Many of the publications in the last week or so have ignored the fundamental protection that all members of any civilized society share, that is, the presumption of innocence to any allegation of criminal wrongdoing, said David Campbell SC, a member of the legal team acting for Dylan. Loading. People forget that is a presumption that can only be displaced by a jury after it has heard all of the evidence that relates to it. To do what some sections of the media have been doing violates that principle and has the capacity to undermine the effectiveness of the criminal process in circumstances where the central figures involved are powerless to speak out until a matter is presented before a jury. In clubland, the sentiment appears to have turned in favor of standing down players, particularly if they remain on full pay and if the affected team is given salary cap relief to replace the suspended player. While several club chairs and chief executives have aired that view, the players, led by their union, believe any change to the status quo reverses the presumption of innocence assumption. Loading. Those in favor of the existing rules point to the Brett Stewart case. The former Manly fullback was suspended for 4 matches and his club fined $100,000 for the boozy season launch that preceded an alleged sexual assault. Stewart was subsequently acquitted. "I think you are only guilty when you are proven guilty when you go to court," said former Manly CEO Graham Lowe, in charge of the club while Stewart's matter was before the courts. What happened to Brett Stewart is a terrible blight on what can happen if an administration gets it wrong. You just have to feel extremely sorry for Brett Stewart in that case. Lowe has a different take on how such incidents should be handled from now on. Rather than making it the responsibility of the NRL, Lowe urged the clubs to make the difficult calls. The first club that puts its hand up and makes a mark is going to be the club that will change the history of the game. Graham Lowe. It's about time the clubs stopped hiding behind the skirts of the NRL and made the tough decisions, Lowe said. Too many of the clubs try to let the player play when human decency and behaviour dictates that they shouldn't. They want the NRL to make the call for them. I think clubs are copping out. The clubs have got to be in total control of player. If their player is on the wrong track, they should take the appropriate steps and stand them down. The first club that puts its hand up and makes a mark is going to be the club that will change the history of the game.